You could be stopped at airport security because of a simple jar of cream. You could miss your flight because of a key. And even a bottle of alcohol could cause serious problems during your trip if you don't know the rules. Most people think they know exactly what they can and can't bring on a plane. That's where the danger begins. Items that seem completely harmless at home can suddenly become prohibited once you step into an airport. Every year, travelers lose expensive items, pay unexpected fees, get pulled aside for extra screening, and even miss flights because they packed the wrong things in the wrong bags. And some of the rules are so surprising that even frequent flyers get caught off guard. In this video, I'll reveal the items you should never pack in your carry-on or checked luggage, the airport mistakes that cost travelers money every day, and the simple packing rules that could save your next vacation before it even begins. Because one small mistake in your suitcase can create a very big problem at the airport. The last thing you want is to turn your dream vacation into a stressful and expensive nightmare because of something hiding inside your suitcase. But before we get into the items that can get you stopped at security, fined, or even cause you to miss your flight, you need to understand one very important thing. Not all luggage is treated the same. And this is where many travelers make their first big mistake. Let's start with your carry-on bag. This is the bag that travels with you inside the aircraft. Depending on the airline, it usually weighs up to around 12 kilograms, and it's the suitcase most people call their cabin bag or carry-on. But that's not the only item you're allowed to bring on board. Most airlines also allow what's called a personal item. This is usually something smaller, like a backpack, purse, laptop bag, or small tote. The key difference is that it must fit underneath the seat in front of you. It sounds simple, but knowing the difference between a carry-on and a personal item can save you from unexpected fees and stressful conversations at the gate. Now let's talk about checked baggage. This is the luggage you hand over at the check-in counter before going through security. Depending on your ticket and airline, it usually weighs between 15 and 23 kilograms. Unlike your carry-on, this bag doesn't stay with you. It travels in the cargo hold underneath the aircraft and you won't see it again until you reach your final destination. And here's why understanding these differences matters so much. Some items that are perfectly allowed inside your checked luggage are strictly forbidden inside your carry-on. And some things that are permitted in your carry-on should never be packed in your checked baggage. Getting this wrong can lead to confiscated items, long delays, expensive fees, and in some situations, you may not even make your flight. And the first prohibited item on our list is something millions of travelers pack without thinking. Once your checked bag disappears onto the conveyor belt, that's it. You won't have access to it again until you reach your destination. And that's exactly why so many travelers make costly mistakes. One of the most common questions people ask is, what should I pack in each bag? The answer is simpler than you think. But getting it wrong can create serious problems during your trip. Let's start with your personal item. This is where your most important belongings should always go. Your passport, your wallet, your medications, your phone charger, any travel documents, and anything valuable that you might need quickly. Why? Because this bag stays right in front of you during the flight. If you suddenly need your passport, your medication, or a charger, you can simply reach down and grab it in seconds. Now, your carry-on bag serves a different purpose. This is where you should place items that are important, but not things you'll likely need during the flight. Think of it as your backup storage. You may need these items later, but you don't need immediate access to them while sitting in your seat. And then there's your checked baggage. This bag should contain items that you can comfortably live without for several hours, or even an entire day if something goes wrong. Because here's the reality most people never consider. Bags sometimes arrive late. Sometimes they end up on another flight. And occasionally, they go missing entirely. Imagine landing in another country and realizing your medication, your passport, or your car keys are somewhere inside a suitcase that you can't find. Unfortunately, it happens more often than people think. So remember this simple rule. If it's valuable, important, expensive, or something you'll need quickly, it belongs in your personal item. That one decision alone can save you from enormous stress. But now that you understand where everything should go, it's time to talk about the items that should never go. Every time I travel, I see the exact same scene at airport security. Passengers opening their bags in a panic, people throwing expensive items into the trash. And almost every time, the problem involves liquids. It doesn't matter if it's a cheap bottle of shampoo or an expensive perfume you just bought. If it doesn't follow the rules, you're not taking it on the plane. And here's the part that surprises most travelers. You don't get a warning. You don't get a second chance. You either throw it away, or you don't board the flight. So, what exactly is the rule? You can bring liquids in your carry-on, but there are limits. The maximum amount allowed is 1 liter in total. However, you cannot put all of it inside one large container. Instead, the liquids must be divided into containers of no more than 100 milliliters each. And here's where many people make a costly mistake. Let's say you have a bottle that holds 150 milliliters, but it's only half full and contains just 100 milliliters of liquid. Most people assume that's acceptable. It's not. Airport security doesn't judge the amount of liquid inside the bottle. They judge the size of the container itself. If the container is larger than 100 milliliters, it can be confiscated, even if it's almost empty. That's why experienced travelers use small containers that are clearly marked and preferably transparent. It makes the security process much faster and eliminates unnecessary stress. And where should you pack these liquids? Ideally, inside your personal item. Why? Because when you reach the security checkpoint, you'll need quick access to them. You don't want to start opening suitcases and digging through clothes while an entire line of passengers waits behind you. There's another advantage too. During your trip, you may need some of those items, like hand sanitizer, toothpaste, medication, or other personal care products. Having them close by makes your journey much easier. But then This is why researching the rules of your destination country is so important. An item that is completely legal in Brazil may be restricted or even prohibited in another country. That's why there is no universal answer. What is allowed in one place could create serious problems somewhere else. And the last thing you want is to arrive after a long flight only to be stopped by customs because of something you packed without thinking. A few minutes of research before your trip can save you hours of stress later. Now let's talk about another question travelers ask all the time. Can you bring alcohol on a plane? The answer is yes, but there are important conditions. Alcoholic beverages should be packed in your checked luggage, not your carry-on. Most airlines allow up to 5 liters of alcohol per passenger, and the alcohol content generally must be between 24% and 70%. And here's why. Once the alcohol percentage goes above that limit, it becomes a safety concern because highly concentrated alcohol is considered flammable. In other words, what seems like a harmless bottle could actually become a fire risk inside an aircraft. But there's another problem that many travelers don't think about. Getting the bottles to arrive in one piece. Anyone who flies frequently knows that checked luggage isn't always handled gently. Suitcases are stacked, moved quickly, and sometimes dropped during the loading process. One strong impact can easily break a bottle of wine or liquor. And if that happens, you don't just lose an expensive souvenir. You may also open your suitcase and discover that your clothes, shoes, and personal items are soaked. Experienced travelers use a few clever tricks. Some wrap bottles in layers of clothing. Others use protective sleeves designed specifically for wine bottles. The goal is simple: protect the bottle and prevent a small accident from ruining everything inside your suitcase. Now, let's move to one of the most misunderstood topics. And here's a mistake that catches wine lovers completely off guard. Many travelers bring back bottles of wine from places like France, Italy, Argentina, or Portugal. And along with those bottles, they often buy a beautiful souvenir corkscrew. Seems harmless, right? Not necessarily. At airport security, a corkscrew can become a serious problem. Why? Because many corkscrews contain a small metal point or a folding blade. Security officers may classify it as a sharp object or even a potential weapon. And once you're at the checkpoint, you have very few options. You may have to throw it away. The same rule applies to pocket knives, multi-tools, and certain tools that people casually leave inside their bags. A small souvenir can quickly become a big headache. Now let's talk about something almost everyone travels with. Electronics. Passengers constantly ask whether they can bring tablets, cameras, laptops, and other devices onto the plane. The good news is yes, you can bring them. But here's where many people make another mistake. When you reach the security checkpoint, large electronic devices usually need to be removed from your bag and placed separately in a screening tray. If you leave them inside your backpack or carry-on, your bag may be pulled aside for additional inspection, creating delays and unnecessary stress. And there's another danger that most travelers never think about. The security area is one of the easiest places to become distracted. You're taking off your shoes, removing your electronics, watching your bags move through the scanner, trying to remember your passport. Your attention is everywhere at once. And that's exactly why thieves love these environments. Every year, travelers lose phones, wallets, tablets, laptops, and expensive cameras simply because they focused on getting through security and forgot about their belongings for a few seconds. Many people believe stealing can't happen inside an airport. Unfortunately, that's simply not true. Airports are busy, crowded places filled with distracted travelers carrying valuable items. And for someone with bad intentions, distraction creates opportunity. So here's a simple rule that experienced travelers always follow. Never let your valuables enter the X-ray machine before you're ready to walk through immediately afterward. Keep your eyes on your belongings at all times. Because sometimes the biggest travel mistakes don't happen on the plane. They happen before you even reach the gate. And the next item on our list is something millions of passengers carry every day without realizing it could cause serious problems during airport security screening.